Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. Excuse me if there's some noise in the background, just, the morning. Just got a lot of videos that I'm planning to shoot for today, and I'm going to be doing this one first, so excuse me if you just hear some noises in the background. Just everybody's getting up, it's the morning, so. But we got a lot of topics for this week. A lot of stuff happened this week, and yeah, so I'm going to cut this short, and we're just going to jump right on it. So the first thing that we're going to discuss is actually a story that happened last week, but I'm just going to put it up right up front for this news roundup. In regards to Alec Baldwin's trial for the tragic Rust production, in the latest attempt to relieve him of any court appearances or charges held against him, his attorneys filed to have the case dropped, citing prosecution not following, quote, ethical behavior in securing a grand jury incitement against Alec Baldwin. Now, I will be honest, I don't know what any of that means, but they're basically just saying that they're not following the rules. They're not practicing the law, so. But after a hearing where this proposal was laid out, on a virtual call on May 17th, the judge had denied the request. So the trial is still set to happen, I believe sometime this summer, and Alec Baldwin will be required to make appearances before the court. So, good. He needs to be held accountable, and the law has to be applied under this case. He held a weapon, he fired it. He's guilty. I mean, reasoning behind it, we've talked about, the reasonings or lack thereof in this case. It doesn't excuse what happened. Someone unfortunately died because of what he did and what the armor did, and thankfully the armor is serving time in prison, but I still don't think, like, on one level, I just Alec Baldwin to say that he is not guilty at all and he has no part in it whatsoever. I mean, even Alec Baldwin saying just stupid shit like, "Oh well, I didn't really hold the weapon" or whatever. He said some dumb stuff, trying to defend himself, and it's just pathetic. But like I've said before, I still don't think anything will seriously come to him. He's a bigger name, and I think he's had a part in just the dating of the trial and all this stuff. So he has a little bit more power over this. So I don't think much will happen to him. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe stuff will come to him. But I severely doubt that. But good to see that this is still going to be happening and that he is not getting out of this so easily. So there you have that. All right, let's get into Furiosa for a little bit because we talked about it in a big video. Came out and, well, did not do well. And apparently Wes Ball, who we know recently directed Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, he had a few things to say on Twitter coming off of the historic Memorial Day weekend lows. He went onto Twitter to defend Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which we've discussed just now in previous videos, released to, not hyperbole, terrible results. So, and on a side note, George Miller's ambitions for another Mad Max film entitled The Wasteland, which is supposedly meant to have Tom Hardy back as Mad Max, those ambitions are not looking to move forward. For obvious reasons, even though the company claims to be proud of Furiosa, they're not. It's just PR speak. But getting into Wes Ball's tweets, he suggests that the film isn't handling a massive budget. Yes, it is. Rather that it could have been more expensive, and thus we should support and appreciate a filmmaker and a studio who are making, quote, creative swings. And this is coming from the mouth of a filmmaker whose most recent film Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, carries almost the exact same budget as Furiosa, and also has yet to turn a profit in their quote creative swing, as it's put in his tweet, which is just basically using an IP, building off of a trilogy of films, and rebooting the series once again. Whereas Furiosa is essentially the same idea, except it's more directly a prequel to Fury Road. Where's the quote creative swing in making largely budgeted sequels and prequels? It's called a hypocrisy. This is just a silly tweet, you know. It's like, I mean, yeah, it could have cost more, sure, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still highly budgeted. So, well, guys, it could have been $300 million. I mean, isn't it crazy that he made it just for? It looks like a film that was made for $300 million. It's like, okay, I just, it's such a mood point that he brought up. So it's like, I don't know, but yeah, Furiosa did not do well at all, and it's it's very unfortunate, and also. For Wes Ball's case, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes has also yet to turn a profit either. So, just, I don't know. It's very interesting for him to say what he's saying when his film, who is carrying almost the exact same budget as Furiosa, has also yet to turn a profit. So, hypocrisy, if you ask me. Speaking of box office, let's get into Bad Boys 4, because Bad Boys 4 is coming out pretty soon. June 7th is the release date here in North America. There was an interesting quote that came from Sony Pictures, as they're the distributors for Bad Boys 4, during a conference call while discussing the current decline in the market and being, quote, optimistic about people coming back to the theatrical experience, which I wouldn't be putting much hope on. Sony Pictures Entertainment CEO Tony Vinciquerra, I think that's how you say his name, he feels that Bad Boys Ride or Die, which is due to come out on June 7th, is tracking well and, quote, is going to be just fine. The fourth film in the franchise carries a solid $100 million budget, and most recently has secured a China release 2 weeks after the North American release date. So, look, regardless of how the company actually feels, they're going to talk it up because it's their money on the table. Plus, I'm pretty sure he's talking to investors in that call, so they'll never say that something is destined to fail or won't do well, because it's also their money on the table as well. So that being said, if you read his quotes, like I just said, like that phrasing, just it's going to be just fine. I think he actually sounds concerned. The language is either, in my book, being too cocky, or as he puts it, being optimistic. It doesn't seem genuinely confident, because the reality is that this is being $100 million film. It's not going to do well. I mean, I doubt it will do well. The last film was the result of unique circumstances. One, the pandemic was just around the corner. Being like, if you really think about it, oddly enough, Bad Boys 3 was really the last time of an era where a film had a proper theatrical run and no concern with competing with streaming. So it was just like the tail end of that era, Bad Boys 3. So that was coming off a different era. And a second point, that film was released in January. So which is, we all know is the dead month for films. So of course, to roll out a notable IP in the month of January, you're going to get more eyes to come see your film. But they're putting this film in the heart of the summer, and with Inside Out 2 coming out the following week, and then A Quiet Place Day 1 the week after that, this is going to get left in the dust, if you ask me. And with a $100 million price tag, especially with how this summer's been going, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. Very, very interesting. But we'll see what happens. But I have high doubts that that's going to do well. So, Also, following from the Sony conference regarding Bad Boys, Sony Pictures has revealed that they are focusing very much so on AI technology. Tony Vinsqueri, who was talking to Japan, um, he mentioned that the company, quote, is very focused on AI and looking to integrate this technology into their film and television productions, hoping to cut back on more cost and find, quote, more efficient ways to produce their content. So, uh, yeah, uh, this is very dangerous to, uh, like, I don't think I'm exaggerating this when I say that this is the first time that any of the big companies has ever just come up front, just say, look, this is what we're doing. You know, I think this is the first time. Um, and like I said, it's just super dangerous to have one of these big studios announcing these things because, on one hand, it incentivizes studios to invest into this technology and give them the confidence to mandate these integrations because it benefits them purely in limiting the cost on production, which the workers, which everyone knows the workers aren't the problem. It's not that they're not performing their duty or whatever like that. They're doing everything. They're the creatives. They're the ones providing all the stuff, and of course producers are the one bringing in the money, which is why I say that the reality of it is that it's the producers who call the shots, regardless of what you want to think. But it's not the workers that are the problem. The problem is to do with the investments. It has to do with how much money is on the table and having more of a control of your production and not letting costs get out of hand. Just ask Gladiator 2 how much its films cost now. That's the main issues. So it's not about eliminating workers. It's about having more control over your productions. This just ain't it. You know. And on another, the strikes ended with the hopes that these integrations would be limited, or that the creators would be given some creative control over those sort of ideas. Like I said, of course, the reality again is that the producers are the ones that are calling the shots. But that's how all this stuff was squashed. Was with those sort of negotiations and those agreements in place. So yeah, man. This is just how it starts. When one person says something, it's a trickle effect. It's just like how we're in the streaming era now with Warner Brothers and HBO Max, how all that began with them. All it takes is one, just one, to start a trend and to forge a new path and to give people, the studios, the confidence in going that way. So Sony's just coming out here saying, look, dude, that's what we're going to start doing. That's honestly a bit scary, hearing from one of these companies just being upfront about that. Like, I'm not joking that this might breathe life back into another strike. I'm dead serious that this might call for another strike. I know that there's negotiations happening with the unions and stuff like that right now. So who knows, man? That we could see another strike potentially. Cause yeah, yikes. And also, I just saw that there's a streaming platform now, Fable something, where people can now come in and just create their own content based on AI stuff. It's getting real scary, with the AI technology. And it's very, very upsetting to hear that one of the big companies, they were, this year, more than anything, we've been noticing it more. Like Late Night with the Devil, there are people that brought that film up. There was a film just most recently that integrated AI stuff. I forget what it was called, but there was another film recently that had that. So it's creeping in. This stuff was creeping in regardless, but it's just unfortunate and very sad that these companies are potentially now going to lean into that sort of thing with someone like Sony leading the charge and just saying, hey, this is what we're doing, So, yeah. So, I don't know what this means for the future. I really don't know. I don't know if that means another strike is imminent. I don't know if, you know what I mean? Because that's not going to sit well with the unions. Those comments that he made, it's definitely not going to sit well with them. So, yeah. So, it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. And if you ask me, just a bad decision overall. So I get their benefits. I understand that. I understand that they can limit the cost, but that's not the problem. It's not to do with the employees. It's not to do with the people that are working. It is not to do with them. It has to do with you guys and how much you are investing into these projects and controlling the budgets, making sure that these budgets don't go out of hand, Like, that's the problem, Like, that's the real problem. It's not to do with the workers, and they don't see it that way. They think that, well, if we just get rid of these people and we just basically just operate with a bunch of, tech, or certain features or whatever like that, then we can, not have to concern ourselves with bigger costs in our spending. It's sad that that's where their minds are at. And, we'll see how this pans out, but I would not be surprised if another strike comes about because of those comments. I'm dead serious. I think that I seriously think something like this is going to incentivize those unions to maybe go on strike again. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, it's just not a good look. So. All right. Speaking of sequels, let's get into one of the bigger stories for the week. That is revolving around Knives Out. Knives Out 3 has been officially unveiled. The title has been unveiled as Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. And it's rounding out its cast now. Some casting announcements actually being released today. Daniel Craig is once again returning to lead the whodunit, and it's including quite a younger cast this time around, including faces such as Andrew Scott, Kaylee Spaney, Josh O'Connor, as well as some more familiar faces in the notability, star names. Jeremy Renner is going to be joining the cast, Glenn Close, as well as Kerry Washington. And the film will be released on Netflix because they had that whole deal with making 2 Knives Out films when Netflix bought out, Rian Johnson and Knives Out. This film will be released sometime in 2025. No firm release date just yet, but I just don't care, to be honest. This is kind of a one-trick pony that worked well the first time, worked well enough. The original was so apparent to me. Like, it tried to be so faux clever, but it really wasn't clever. It was just good fun. The second one leaves out the fun more for me and is more of that blatant quality that the original bared. Like, there's never a genuine twist with these stories because the writing and the acting are never operating on any level of subtlety. Like, I don't believe personally just how they're written. Sorry, my nose is super stuffy. I just don't believe that they're well written. And you always know who the killer is because the story basically tries to make you question your initial impression. You have with Chris Evans, or in the case of Knives Out 2 with Edward Norton, only for that feeling to be validated later, So it's not like you feel one way and then you're like, oh, wait, I was wrong. It's exactly what I felt, throughout the entire runtime, or what I initially saw. Because again, the acting is just so exaggerative and so obvious. It's like, who's the slime ball of the group, So it's like, in terms of its writing, it's smoke and mirrors. And that's not really great. It's just repetitive, boring, and frankly just not well told. So So I'm not really interested. I mean, also considering that we're going younger for the cast, I'm just not the target audience for this. So no thanks. Not really that interested. So yeah. So I don't hate these movies. I just don't really care for them. So all right, we got some more news on the Masters in the Universe film, which has been in long development. We know that film is going to be this latest attempt, I must say, is being directed by Travis Knight, the guy who gave us Bumblebee, as well as Kubo and the Two Strings. We now know who's going to be He-Man this time around. A guy named Nicholas Galitzine. He most recently starred alongside Anne Hathaway in Amazon's The Idea of You. Um, and Amazon Studios also being the developers of this latest attempt. Being written by Chris Butler, the guy behind Paranorman, as well as Missing Link and Kubo and the Two Strings. So he's had collaborations in the past with Travis Knight. Has a release date also of June 5th, 2026. So we have another He-Man, adding to the list of people who have tried to be He-Man in the past. So I feel this is going to be the final iteration. I truly believe this will be the version that comes out. I don't know anything about the actor. I looked him up. He pretty much is just a pretty face. He just been typecasted in a bunch of rom-coms and shit. So, one of those types of actors. So, but this just feels to be the one that will stick. Unless the actor decides to walk away, I think this is the one you're going to get. So, of course, they're going to go for the young crowd. I was thinking they may go a little older with another notable face. I was guessing Glenn Powell just because he was kind of a hot name right now. But nope, we're just going for a young, pretty face. So, but yeah. So I'm pretty sure this will be the one that comes out. This just feels like, it just feels like the one. So yeah. So hopefully it's better than the last attempt from the 80s, because my God, that was just a travesty. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I don't know anything about the kid. I also just frankly don't care about the film, but it's just good to see that this is finally getting off the ground, and hopefully it comes out decent. So we'll see what happens. So. All right, the next story revolves around Mike Flanagan, who we recently talked about, reportedly was directing the next Exorcist film, and that has been confirmed that he will be directing the next Exorcist film for Blumhouse and for Universal Pictures. But we now know that the new film will be a standalone story in the series. So they're going to be abandoning their plans for a new trilogy, which started out with The Exorcist Believer back in 2023. So they're just completely abandoning and canceling that trilogy outright. The key thing to know about the investment into the Exorcist series is that Universal made a massive $400 million deal for the rights to produce at least 3 Exorcist films, which was the original idea at play, was to conceive a trilogy. But it appears now it might be just 3 individual films, albeit if this new one doesn't perform well either, just rebooting it again, But regardless, they're obligated to produce at least 3 films, or at this point, accumulate the cost, to justify their investment. At this point, because Exorcist Believer counts under this deal, and that film brought in at least $137 million. So you do your calculations. So there's $263 million left to accumulate to justify their investment. So they have 2 more films contracted out that they have to produce, because they have to make at least 3. So yeah. Originally I didn't care about the new film, but now, knowing that it's a standalone film and that they're just completely just starting over, just throwing that idea away, now you have my attention. Now you do. I really have heard nothing but negative things about Believer. The trailer didn't look good either. I mean, that's why I chose not to see it. It just looked like such a generic horror film. It's a little surprising to me because Believer did turn a profit, being one of the few things that did well last year. I guess they're more concerned about how the other two would perform based on the reception of Believer, which again was mostly negative. But now knowing that this is going to be separate and that the entire that entire idea of a trilogy and all that, now that that's just being completely scrapped, I'd be curious to see how this develops because I enjoy this filmmaker's sensibilities. I enjoyed how he followed up The Shining, with Doctor Sleep. So I'm very curious of what he'll bring to The Exorcist. So I think he would, in theory, make a good film in the Exorcist series. But yeah, so you have my interest, and I am curious to see how this develops. So yeah, so we'll see how this all unfolds. But yeah, I'm more interested now than I was previously. So. All right, and in other news, we have a small story. It's kind of a strange one. Came out today. Chris Hemsworth, who we know is going to be voicing Optimus Prime / Orion Pax in the upcoming animated feature Transformers 1, apparently is in talks to presumably appear in a live-action format in the upcoming Transformers G.I. Joe crossover, which is looking to follow up from Rise of the Beast back in 2023, which, of course, didn't turn a profit, by the way. No release date, no director attached, nothing yet, but Chris Hemsworth is looking to star in said film. A little strange, if you ask me. I'm guessing, my guess, just, by the announcement, I'm guessing that he was probably, given like a sweet offer to star in this, because it sounds like Paramount wants to stay in business with Hemsworth, but yeah, they haven't specified on what they mean by starring. I presume it's a live action appearance. But as long as Peter Cullen is going to be Optimus Prime, then, I'm cool with it. I mean, I don't mind what Hemsworth's interpretation based on the trailer, but I mean, it's Peter Cullen all the way, So interesting little casting bit. A little strange just because of just him already starring in one thing and now he's starring in another. But I guess they like Chris Hemsworth and they want to stay in business with him. So as long as Peter Cullen is Prime, not much stank from me. So there you have that. So. All right, we got 2 trailers to discuss for this week. The big one, obviously, that we're going to discuss briefly is the teaser for Moana 2. Moana 2 is happening this year. We got the cast returning to voice their parts, including Dwayne Johnson. This was originally intended, this feature film that we're seeing here for Moana 2. Sorry, my mic. This was originally intended for a TV show. And this is basically taking that concept and that footage and morphing it into something of a sequel. So it wasn't conceived to be a sequel to Moana. It was originally intended to be a TV show, but they're now jury-rigging it into a sequel, basically. I don't really care. I mean, it looks to be taking a page out of Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Like, they even got a big freaking whale in the trailer. I don't remember hating the first Moana. I remember liking it, but I just don't recall much of it. So, I mean, other than some fair animation, I mean, it looks fine. I just didn't get much out of the trailer. Didn't get much of anything, really. I don't remember much of the original, except, like I said, I liked it. But we'll see. I'm more concerned about his budget more than anything else, because, yeah, that's what counts nowadays. So I don't really care, really, but, I'm not against it either, so it's just pretty much whatever. So yeah, kind of whatever for me, but we'll see what happens. And the other trailer that came out is a trailer called Wolves. This is starring George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and being written and directed by John Watts, the guy who gave us the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. Has a release date for September 20th, 2024. Oh, by the way, Moana 2 is scheduled to come out on November 27th of this year. So I forgot to mention that real quick. But yeah, so George Clooney and Brad Pitt, they're playing two, like, I guess you could say, like, I don't know how you call those people where, something takes place, like a murder or whatever, they hire someone to clean up the mess. I'm not sure how you would call those people, but it's what they're playing, and George Clooney is brought on to clean up the mess, as it were, and then Brad Pitt is also called in, and then there's a mystery at play as to what is going on and why were they both called in? Were they set up? Were they not? Probably. But I'm guessing there's also a father and son dynamic here. I don't know. There was a line in the trailer that was like, wow, you guys are just like very similar. You guys have like the same mannerisms and all that. It's like, I don't know if that's alluding to that, but I don't know. I can see what they're attempting to go for. They're going for like that dry approach in its humor, but it's just too stale for me. It just comes across more bland and uninteresting to me. I doubt that the budget's low for this either, because you got people like George Clooney and Brad Pitt involved, and they don't do films often. They produce a lot of shit, but they don't participate in films often, because they probably demand a lot of money. So I doubt that the budget is low on this, and I doubt that it will have legs when it comes out either. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look very interesting, and acting wise, there's a lot left to be desired. I mean, again, I understand what they're going for, but it just doesn't do them any favors. It just kind of works against them, if you were to ask me. So yeah, don't really care. Titling's also kind of strange because it's like it's the singular, talking about one wolf, and then there's an S at the end. There's probably something to it. I don't know, but like someone said, like maybe they're loners, and that's why the title is singular but has that plural, the S at the end. It's like you could just use the proper grammar and the same point could have been delivered, or maybe it's the corporation that they work for. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, I don't really care. So that's just how I feel. But yeah, that's going to be it for this news roundup this week. Let me know your thoughts on all these topics. Sorry for my voice and just my congestion, just a lot of cat hair around my computer. Just got to clean up. But you guys know your thoughts on all these topics, regards to He-Man, regards to The Exorcist getting rebooted again, Knives Out 3, and Moana, the trailers, all this stuff. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.